The loan was forgiven and the new building to house the Geneseo Athenaeum was completed in 1867. In 1869, it became the Wadsworth Library by an act of the New York State Legislature. In the years and generations that have followed, members of the Wadsworth family have continued to be generous with their time and resources, actively promote and help sustain the Wadsworth Library as a key component of the community. Thank you.
I'd like to introduce our special guests today, Dick and Sally Gallivan, who are here representing their son, Senator Patrick Gallivan.
Good morning. Excuse me. The senator, call him senator, is at another event than the other district in Erie County, so he asked me to fill in for him today. He's had an interest in the public libraries ever since he was elected. Over the years, all the libraries have expanded and benefited from the grants he received from the state. His staff has a way of finding money to do these things. One of his first pieces of legislation in 2011, the first year he was in the Senate, allowed for the transfer of funds and assets from the original library charter to the newly organized Wadsworth Library Corporation. He had secured annual technology grants for each of the 26 libraries in his district. In all, over $380,000 has been distributed district-wide over the past 7 years, including more dollars to the Wadsworth Library. He also supported recent interior renovation and the installation of an elevator by helping to secure $98,000 in library construction grants. And he asked me to present a proclamation, which I will read. The proclamation from the office of Senator Patrick M. Gallivan in recognition of the Wadsworth Library. Whereas it is the mission and the nature of this respected body of the state to acknowledge persons and organizations of great character and distinction, and whereas Wadsworth Library is celebrating one of its New York State Charter, Wadsworth Library and its staff has served the Geneseo community for decades by providing access to periodical reading materials, computers, and more. And whereas the Wadsworth Library will celebrate this milestone celebration on Saturday, August 19th, at the library located at 24 Center Street. Therefore, be it resolved that the duty of the state of New York, I recognize the district who hereby recognize the Wadsworth Library. And that's what the Senate said. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Anita Whitehead with remarks about the 1996 edition.
Good morning. I'm Anita Whitehead, and I'm here talking on behalf of Jackie Robinson. Most of you probably know Jackie. She's off with family and couldn't be here, so I got the job instead. I'd like you to, I should say that I was on the board 1996 when the edition was placed, and Jackie was our president and the leading force behind the edition. So right now, I just want you to close your eyes, think back pre-edition. The library ended right here at these arches. It was not a reading room where everyone can sit in the nice armchairs and read their magazines. That was the office. That everything technical happened in that little space. We had a children's area. We were so proud. We had that's where the kids were. There was no young adult section. Those books were all interfiled with the regular adult collection. So things were very, very different. So open your eyes, look at these incredible surroundings, and thank Jackie Robinson. Jackie wanted me to tell you a little bit of the facts that involve the addition. Back in 1926, the library trustees realized we desperately needed an addition. And they had architectural plans drawn up. It was ready to go. Well, you know what happens to the economy and the stock market and things like that. So they put it on hold. It was on hold 70 years. So in 1996, the library acquires the Emily Madden Canal Collection. The Americans with Disabilities Act is passed. Things are changing. The board has to get moving, has to do something. So once again, we decide it's time for an addition. Jackie Robinson decides it's time for the addition, and she really pushes the board to do this. The very first thing we did was hire the firm Handler, Grosso, Durfee, and Bridges, a great choice. They brought the plan to life. They had the conception of what it should look like. Plus, we had Dan Fink. Do you remember Dan Fink? Dan Fink was incredible. He knew architecture. He knew construction. He made sure this addition looks the wonderful way that it does today. So we owe Dan so much for this building. Frank Marianacci was our general contractor, another excellent. He was saying our only problem that she remembers, a worker was working on the sewer, the water lines, things like that between us and the Baptist church, and they uncovered a 60-gallon oil tank. You know what that means. So that was one issue with it. But things went pretty well. Perky Lloyd and Chip Rizzuti ran such a successful fund drive. We were able to put on the addition without incurring any debt. We owe a big thanks to those who went door to door soliciting, and we owe a big thanks to all those donors who paid in full. We owe a great deal to the village and the town crews. They did all of our site work. They graded and gravelled the driveway. They put in sidewalk signs, book drop signs. They moved parking bumpers. Do you remember that we didn't have those little parking spaces behind us? People parked on the street before. The Livingston County Jail weekend workers with their deputy supervisors were responsible for moving all of the books, all of the shelves, and then put everything back in order. They were terrific. They even cleaned the floors. Once we moved the shelves, all those floors were pretty disgusting. They cleaned floors, they cleaned the basement. So we must never forget all the volunteers who donated so much time, such superhuman effort to create this addition. And as Jackie wanted you all to note, Geneseo is a good place to live. Thank you.
Coming forward is Mr. Tom Moore, President of the Wadsworth Library Board of Trustees. And I'm quite sure he will provide us with many memories of his times on board.
Well,
They've been
we'll
many and
see.
varied.
Hello, good morning. My name is Tom Whitmore, and I'm, as Kay said, the president of the Board of Trustees here at Wadsworth Library. I'd like to point out the current trustees in the audience. We have Mike DeBramo. Mike, wave your hand. Good. Marcia Poderecki, who's unable to be here. Oh, Marcia. I didn't see you. Marcia. Gretchen Zenner. Mark Sullivan. Shel Pitney. And Carolyn Mizell. Now, Carolyn and I started on the board together back in 2010. It seems like a lifetime ago. And she's been kind of my constant companion and supporter through the last 8 years. We, in 2010, replaced Mark Latime and Charlotte Brummett, I saw back here, who, for their personal reasons, left the board at that time. During my tenure, I've served with, I figure, about 17 people, including Holly Mullen, Kathleen Houston, Bob Myers, Linda Hathaway, Chris Rubeck, Ted Miskell, Terry Brown, Liz Argentieri, Sue Rabe, and Kay great K over here. And Phil Jones, the treasurer. And everybody, come on up here so everyone can take a look at you. No? All right. Some of the accomplishments that have occurred for the library during the last 8 years are we inventoried and sold the original Athenaeum collection thanks to the help of Charlotte and her crew of volunteers. We contracted with a company called Library Strategies out of Minnesota to do an overall assessment of the library, and we've instituted a lot of the recommendations that they came up with. We secured a grant from Causeway Community Partners. I think it was Rochester Ad Council at the time, but when we finally worked with them, they were Causeway, and they helped us create a brand identity, which we're still in the process of rolling out. We did the elevator project, which made us fully ADA. So Mike DeBramo will be talking about that a little bit later. We addressed the flooding issue in the basement, which was it caused a lot of damage, and part of the Athenaeum collection was damaged, actually, due to floods in the basement. We installed this new floor that your people in this room are sitting on, and we balanced the budget, and we hired Debbie, who's a great library director. In the future, we've received a grant to help correct the icicle problem over the main entrance. I know that a lot of our patrons probably look up before they come in to make sure that the icicles aren't going to fall on their head. That may be something that Senator Gallivan might help fund too. And we plan to address the issue of a second floor children's library to get the kids off the first floor and kind of give us a little more space. The original building and the original plans for this addition were to have 2 floors. And if you notice, the elevator does go up to the second level there. So it would be nice to tie that elevator into an actual floor. We also, recently, Carolyn and I took on the project of rematting the George Washington letters, which you'll see up in the northwestern corner of the building, right next to the reading room. These letters are dated 1776 and 1799. They were written by George Washington and found among the Wadsworth papers in the Genesee Valley National Bank. One is signed, "Your most obedient and very humble servant, George Washington." Some people who helped us on that project were Gary Albright of Honey Eye Falls. He's a paper conservator, and he examined the letters and recommended how best to preserve them and display them. The cabinets were modified by Tim Wall, and they were matted and framed by American Custom Engraving Company, Scott Gillette and Bob Kelsey. And during while we were waiting for the mats to be cut, the letters were stored in Peter Skivington's office safe down on Main Street. So there are a lot of people to thank here. We would like to thank all of the volunteers who help out weekly and daily around here, all the staff, and if anybody is looking for a volunteer opportunity, we have plenty here. So if you love your library, put your efforts where your mouth is. So thank you very much, and I'll turn it over to the next speaker.
mentioned, is our do-all, fix-all, can do anything trustee, Mike DeBrama. He's going to tell you some adventures about the elevator project.
Hello, everybody. I'm Mike DeBramo, as he mentioned. I'm only going to talk for a couple minutes about our new elevator. I came across some interesting facts today. The first elevator was invented about 200 BC by Archimedes in Greece. And there are about 76,000 elevators in New York City. So there's probably a coincidence. The first real elevator was invented by Elisha Otis about 150 years ago, which is, I guess, simultaneous to this library opening. So that's kind of interesting, I thought. So in any case, being part of this as a trustee gives you kind of a feel of how things grow over time. And as some of the other people mentioned, about 25 years ago, they started putting in this addition here. And I guess there was not enough funding to put in the elevator in the second floor as they had planned. So, but they did have the vision to put in the shaft where the library, or excuse me, where the elevator is now, in the anticipation of someday the elevator being installed. So, any case, we'll fast forward about 20 years, and Anna Grace got a grant to cover about a third to half, excuse me, the cost of what the elevator ended up being. So we were lucky for that. It was from New York State. Unfortunately, it didn't go as smoothly as planned when we finally got around to the project. I hate to say this, there was a lot of ups and downs. I'm sorry. And I shouldn't say it because of the planning that the people did, before our time, but we felt that sometimes we got the shaft. I'm sorry. So when the elevator is going, you never hear about elevator accidents, and that's because there's a lot of requirements, both from the government and from the elevator companies, about how things should be set up. So one specific thing we had trouble with, this is just one example, was at the bottom of the elevator shaft, there has to be a sump pump and a hole for the sump pump. Now, where they originally put it in was in the wrong spot. So our contractor had to drill through 2 feet of concrete and make a hole in a slightly different spot so it would meet the specifications of the rules and regulations. So there were some other things that were little detours for us, but we got through them all. We had some great people around our community to help us out with. I'm going to mention their names. Pat Theogardi is a contractor from Mount Morris, and he was kind of our main contractor to set up the elevator shaft. Bill Carmen did all the electrical work. Tim Branducci, of course, he drew up all the plans and helped us with a lot of the details as far as the rules and the process. So that was great. And the workhouse people, who generally helped here at the library, did a lot of the detail work. So, in any case, I mentioned that we had a deadline in the grant from New York State. So the rules were we had to get it done by a certain date or they wanted all of the money back. So that was not good. We were kind of under the gun. So we ended up getting it done on the exact day that it was due, which was June 30th of last year. So we're really lucky we got that. Any case, since then the elevator's gotten a lot of use, especially for people who have meetings downstairs. As Tom, I think, mentioned, it's ADA compliant for Americans with disabilities. We use it quite a bit in moving all the books downstairs, which we had to do when we put the floor in. So it came in quite handy at that time. And as Tom mentioned, it now goes up to the second floor, so don't try to go up there. Don't try that. I don't even think it goes up that far. It doesn't. At this point. But the reason I'm mentioning, I guess our next project will be to actually put in a second floor. So that's coming up in the very near future, hopefully. And I guess we'll be looking to all of you and New York State and the Pioneer Library System and our elected officials to help us out with support with that. So that's coming. So in any case, I guess that's it for me. I don't know if there's any questions.
Thank you, Mike. This brings back many memories. Cindy Costa, our senior clerk, will provide a perspective about how the library usage has changed over the years. I'll let her share the number of years if she so desires.
Thank you, Kay. As Kay pointed out, my name is Cindy Costa, and I am the senior clerk here at Wadsworth Library. Contrary to popular belief, I have not been here since the very beginning. I've only been here 31 years. Today I'm going to talk about the changes that have occurred to the building, and I've seen quite a few. The first major change, as people have alluded to, is this wonderful addition. Although it was the grand opening was held on March 17, 1996. Within the new space was a new entrance, a new service area, and a new children's area. Although it was quite spacious at the time, the children's room has proven to be too small. A new staff work area was behind the service area, and it was very large, we thought. In fact, Judge Houston came in one day, went in there and said, "Wow, this space is so large we could take in lawnmowers for repair." But now, because of staff increases, it too is proven to be a bit tight. A full basement was built underneath this area, but it wasn't until February of 1999 that it became functional as a meeting room. The glass cases that are down there, I don't know if you know, were once owned by Almer's Drugstore down on Main Street. The space has allowed us to invite our community for story time, for book sales, for other events. The knitters meet down there, and I don't think there's any one given day that the room isn't used for one reason or another. In September of 2007, the floor in the main room was refinished, sanded and refinished, with the understanding that it would never be able to be done again, as it had gotten very thin. It's upside down. In September of 2015, the staff room work area received a much needed makeover. The furniture that we had in there was of late basement, early attic vintage. In fact, the computer desk that I used, I brought in after I found it on a curb. And I used it for about 10 years. The large desk that Sarah used came from the old salt mine in Redsaw. Took 4 men to carry it in here. In April of 2016, construction of the elevator began. It was loud, it was dusty, and at times it was somewhat dangerous, but it became functional, as Mike Cabramo said, on June 30th of 2016. And I believe it's one of the best improvements this building has ever done. In May of this year, the new wood floor was installed. And it was very sad that the striped floor was gone. Although it's not really gone, it's underneath the new floor. And on that old floor are many, many autographs from our patrons, even mine. This building been through many changes over the years, but I'm hoping the best is yet to come. I had originally planned to retire on the day of the grand opening of the second-story children's area. But sadly, the decision to move forward will come after I retire this fall. But I'll be here. I'll be here on that day. And hopefully it will be in the not-too-distant future, as this space is what will make this wonderful library a true community meeting space. Thank you.
Next, we have Miss Sarah Matthews, our children's librarian, well known and loved by many, with some reflections on her time serving at the Wadsworth Library. Miss Sarah. So Cindy and I have been thinking about what we were going to say for a while, and I told her that I did not want to follow her when she spoke, which unfortunately didn't work out well for me, but I have the privilege of speaking today both as the current children's librarian here at Wadsworth Library, but also as a child who grew up in this community using this library. I have very clear memories of checking out stacks of books, of filling bags and taking home my loot to explore and go through. I checked out the fairy tale theater episodes on VHS back when they were all the rage, and I spent time playing on the lawn in the back when we had a back pond. And one of my most terrifying memories happened at this library when I had to come and confess to Karen Miskell that I had lost a Boxcar Children book and would have to pay $4.50 to replace it. She was very gracious. I was terrified, but it all worked out in the end and didn't stop me from coming back years later. At that time, my information was stored on a Rolodex. I would come in, give them my name, they would look me up by number and write it on the card. The children's area was just a small section of shelving in the back, as Anita mentioned. It wasn't its own room or really its own space. It was carved out of the rest of the library. At that point in time, we offered one story time per week, and when the summer reading program was first begun, it was limited to 40 participants. In contrast to the library of my youth, things look very different today. The addition in 1996 allowed us to invest in the education of our children in a way that previously we had not been able to do. The increase in physical space allowed for more books, for larger collections, for room for parents to meet and network, and most importantly to me, space for children to meet and to play. Many of you are probably familiar with Mr. Rogers' quote that play is the work of childhood. And I firmly believe that when the addition was finished, it allowed us to achieve that goal. It was no longer just a depository for books, or repository for books, excuse me, but it began to fulfill its mission as a place of play, of learning, and of information in all of its forms. The meeting room opened in 1999, and now hosts crowds of children at events, upwards of 100 people. Library staff now offer 4 story times a week, and this past summer we had over 200 children in our community register for the summer reading program. Things are a little bit different. Summer reading allows them to both read and enjoy programs that stretch them creatively, encourage them to problem solve, and provide education and entertainment on hot summer days, just like they did when I was young. The commitment that was made to the children of this community has more than paid off, but we are again at a point of transition in the life of our library. This building and its mission have played an important role in Geneseo for over 150 years, but our lovely building is feeling her age, and the heavy use, especially over the past 10 years, has left its mark. I would like to invite everyone here today and our community at large
to be bold, and to be brave as we look to the future and we can envision what the future of Wadsworth Library could be for the next 150 years.
Very nice, Miss Sarah. Next, I'd like to have you meet my director, in case you haven't met her yet. Her name is Debbie Emerson, and she seems to have stepped right up and come right in, and she's doing a fine job. So here's Miss Debbie with her thoughts.
First of all, I would like to really thank everyone who came out to celebrate with us today as we celebrate the 150th anniversary of our building. And I'm really humbled to follow all of these folks who have so much history with the library. As I'm relatively new to my role as director of Wadsworth Library, I really rely on the staff, the board of trustees, our many volunteers, and many of our regular library users for really all things historical. I like to think our library is a great mix of the old and the new, and that we have something to offer for everyone. I know that we have a lot of people who come in and tell us they really love our historic building. They feel comfortable here. They appreciate the architecture and the design of the building. And I think they also really appreciate the fact that any changes and additions have been very carefully planned so that they blend with the historical nature of the building. And on the other hand, we have many users who come in for way more modern things, like printing in color, using the internet, scanning and sending things, faxing items. And our loyal library users have made Wadsworth Library one of the highest users of the shared ebook collection that's shared among the 42 libraries in our system. We're not by any means the largest library in the system, but we are one of the highest users of that ebook collection. Our brand new large screen monitor, which today is displaying some photographic memories of the library, is hanging on the wall right next to our clock that dates back to 1862. So how's that for a combination of old and new? The piece of the building that I'm most familiar with, oddly enough, is the floor, because shortly after I started here in mid-March, we began the floor replacement project. That striped flooring that many of you are familiar with and that everybody really liked, although not the original flooring in the building, it had been in place since 1956 and was no longer safe and couldn't be repaired anymore. We took great care to select a new floor that had the look and feel that could have been similar to the original floor, although I don't think anybody knows what the original floor in the building looked like. And as somebody mentioned previously, that piece of history really isn't gone, because that original striped floor was covered up with a new subfloor and then the new hardwood that you see here. And many of you are a little bit involved in that piece of history, because in the last few days before we started the floor replacement project, we invited people who were in here using the library to sign their names on the old floor, maybe leave us a little drawing, leave us a quote, and many, many people did so. And right now those are preserved for posterity, so if the flooring is ever taken up maybe 100 years from now, somebody may see your signature and the cartoons that you left us. I really look forward to trying to carefully maintain that balance between the old and the new here in the Wadsworth Library building. And once again, I would like to thank all of you for joining us in today's celebration.
much, Debbie. Another little housekeeping note. We have a lovely book here. It's over just as you come at the circulation desk, and we would like everyone to please sign to show their participation in this celebration at some point. We are running a little bit later than we thought, but I think that's a good thing. We have, let's see, we have a special treat now. As you know, coming to the end of these, we have some special refreshments procured by Mr. Hop, accompanied by some music provided by Tom Greenfield and Tom Bushnell, also known as Get Off My Lawn. Please enjoy all of that. You should have a ticket. There's going to be a raffle drawing for some teddy bears, and provided by Anita.